Are you ready?
You lied to the whole world!
The original Planet of the Apes, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, came out in 1968 and with its amazing practical effects went on to become an instant classic in the sci-fi genre. With both a bizarre name and look to the movie, it immediately drew moviegoers in. But what I love more than anything about the new rebooted Rise, Dawn, and now War for the Planet of the Apes is that to someone who's unfamiliar with the film, seeing any of the trailers of all three movies, again they still share that same bizarre look as its originals did. Only instead of practical effects, motion capture was used in the new movies. And since Lord of the Rings, Andy Serkis has mastered motion capture and it is now becoming the next big thing in film today. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about this trilogy is although it holds that bizarre otherworldly look to it I spoke of earlier, all three movies tell a surprisingly human story, covering topics such as being free, fighting for your family and loved ones, and even much darker scenarios like revenge is something that can consume you. All experiences the apes face are the same that we as humans have faced at some point in our lives. With relatable characters and characters that we strive to be like, animal or not, the new Planet of the Apes trilogy is one that goes down as a classic for me. But if we look a little deeper, we can find a few things that made this trilogy so enjoyable. With the success of both Rise and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War and Dawn director Matt Reeves and Caesar himself, Andy Serkis, came up with the good idea of letting one lucky fan be in the third and final installment of the trilogy. Thousands, including myself, sent in their video clips acting out their best ape impressions, and you can still go watch my ape audition on my channel. After that, 20th Century Fox teamed up with the Jane Goodall Institution to help in rehabilitation of chimpanzees. You can find more info on all of that on my Who is Jane Goodall video as well. With movies like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, 2005 King Kong, and the Hobbit trilogy, motion capture has most of the time, on all four legs, crawled its way into being a huge part of film today. But with Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes making the main character of all three movies one that is motion capture CGI the whole time, at the time Rise came out was something that had never been done before, but was something that definitely paid off in the end. Within all three movies, maybe not the entire time, but at least one scene out of Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes wows us with what's going on during the scene, along with an outstanding score that makes it that much more enjoyable. In Rise, Patrick Doyle's Off You Go that's playing when it shows Caesar grow while swinging through the trees was beautiful enough to know even that early on that this was going to be an epic story. In Dawn, when we first see the kingdom Caesar has created with his apes, Michael Giacchino's score to go along with it delivers a truly breathtaking experience. And in War, again Michael Giacchino's score melted our hearts and will forever be a song that whenever I hear it, I immediately tear up. If I had to put these movies in order from favorite to least favorite, I would say Rise is my number one, then War, then Dawn. With that said, they are all still amazing movies, and even if to some the story wasn't quite as intriguing as its originals or if the CGI wasn't quite as good, this trilogy in more ways than one improved upon one thing or another with every next movie. Rise presented us with some of the best graphics we had seen at that time, and I remember thinking there's no way it can get any better, but it did in Dawn, and by the time War came into play, to our eyes, it's not CGI anymore. It's real. While being different and each movie being an absolute blast, the new Planet of the Apes trilogy still was able to make each story incomplete without the movie before it or the movie after. Although it does a pretty good job of getting you up to speed with what's going on in each one, you obviously can't watch War and expect to know how they got to that point if you haven't watched Rise and Dawn, and the same goes for Dawn to Rise. Again, they briefly go over what has happened throughout the other movies, but each movie is a focal point in Caesar's life, and the trilogy's main character has always been Caesar. Even with Rise, it leaves it open enough at the end that I can remember seeing it for the first time back when it first came out, and although I loved it, I do recall thinking there has to be more than that, and I'm really glad there was. One of the biggest reasons I feel Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake didn't do as good as the new trilogy is because I think they were trying to go for that otherworldly, bizarre look I spoke of earlier, but I feel they focused too much on trying to make the film as action-packed as they possibly could rather than what the actors or actresses could actually bring to the table. Learning from those mistakes, Rise, Dawn, and War, all three movies have action in them, some more than others, but it's never the story's main focusing point. For there are much deeper, much more emotional and meaningful plot points to cover within all three movies. And not just by what's being said. With movies of all kinds, I've always felt, show, don't tell. Even a little too much exposition can ruin a movie. But perhaps the most impressive thing the new Planet of the Apes trilogy has to offer from a filming standpoint is being able to see how much emotion lies within the apes' facial expressions. Using the most groundbreaking motion capture effects, actors that have mastered the craft, and working under a team that has now perfected the way the apes look, an emotional moment is so much more when you don't hear a thing. And as I've spoken before on my Let Me Make You a Martyr movie review, capturing someone's emotions through film is one of the hardest things to do. However, capturing someone's emotions through special effects with the team behind Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes have not only made the apes look incredibly real, but have succeeded in a task that has never been done so beautifully in all of film history. Home, family, future, being different, wanting to be normal, protecting your loved ones, being a prisoner, making new friends, not letting anyone walk all over you, making your own choices, living through years of oppression, being the better person, never resorting to violence unless it's absolutely necessary, living free, being a husband, being a father, having a friend, losing a friend, being stabbed in the back, not judging someone before you get to know them, striving for the betterment of your kind, being a leader, being a warrior, losing loved ones, the harsh reality of war. Vengeance can consume you, letting everyone down, sacrifice, never stop fighting for a better world. Never stop being the person you were meant to be. True friends will always have your back, and family is everything. These are just a handful of the topics that are covered throughout Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes, and although the trilogy is focused on Caesar, who is not human, the events he is faced with have been things that humans have experienced at some point in our lives, or some that possibly still experience them today. It is incredibly hard for me to compare these movies to any other movie I've ever seen, but if I had to, I would say Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a much darker Harry and the Hendersons. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is essentially The Lion King, and War for the Planet of the Apes is the story of Moses told from a Western movie standpoint. But again, each one of these movies is its own thing, and that is probably my #1 favorite thing about the trilogy. Reboots after reboots, comics being made into movies, books, old TV shows, older movies even. Although it's still a little unclear as to if these tie into the originals or if it's a clear reboot, the fact that they left that open for you to decide is genius. Aside from that though, although it can't be called 100% original because of that take from the original title, these movies are so much different from the originals and honestly much better in my opinion. This is a trilogy that doesn't focus on millions of Easter eggs. They're there, just not an absurd amount of them. Although I am one that sees these movies as prequels to the originals, each one of them are different from the originals as well as being different from each other. Telling a compelling, heart-wrenching, inspirational story throughout 3 movies just as good if not better than the first, while still leaving the possibility that they do tie into the original Planet of the Apes, making it a total of 8 movies together, if we're not including the TV series and Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, to me makes Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes the best trilogy of all time. And that is saying a lot coming from me. I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Hope you guys enjoyed my series of Planet of the Apes videos. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content. Until next time, I'm Johnny B. Good with Johnny's Be Good Reviews, and let's hope the next movie will be good.